Okay, we're gonna try again with something we're gonna try something again. Didn't hit it. Didn't get it. Didn't hit it on. We didn't hit this one correctly. We say this one correctly. Okay, look. We've talked about the fact that the way in which the country, the population, doesn't live in reality, the one of the deepest way, is that the people are concerned about all kinds of things, but are kind of like not that the discussion in our media and our news and what gets into the heads of people that with the country and the people providing news and information like aren't grown up about what would be called political economy, structural changes happening to our economy, things to do with things to do with a bunch of things, ways in which economies can be organized, ways that different sectors of the population, what the political economic position is, not to mention what words mean. We've talked about this, throwing around words, all different types of ism words that are misused because no one's just throwing them around. We don't mention the way the word socialism is used and the way the word Marxism comes up. People use words they don't know what they're not really clear. Did we know they're not clear on what it means? For a variety of reasons. That's okay. But here's the thing: it's all of that. It's that lack of political economy. It could be one word. So political economy, the way of the whole. That's a part of reality is sort of missing for the way people are focused on other things, social and cultural and this and that, but not that not that the discussion and things misses what other societies have a long history of they have political economists. How things be organized, really not it's the discussion doesn't come up. It's one way we're not grown up as a country. It's true. But here's the thing, though. Something came up in a discussion where the way in which they were talking and how it has to do with something else, it has to do with a type of it's a type of racism, but it's a type of racism that can only exist in the dialogue of people in radio and TV news and newspapers, and that gets in people's heads and it's part of the conversation. It's a type of racism that comes out of the total sort of part of that we're all people are really into talking about social issues, cultural issues, racial issues, interest group issues, but aren't that aware of political economic things, partly because to be unaware of it you wouldn't know what's missing because you wouldn't be aware of it and no one's bringing it. Okay, it's part of how we're not a grown-up country, but it's not the fault of anyone. It's the fault of the universities. It's the fault of the newscasters and pundits and anyone who has an opportunity to explain reality to people doesn't talk about such things so naturally. You come out of college unaware of such things. It's not discussed. It's a part. It's not discussed in a grown-up way. Okay, so that we heard talking about stuff, but about crime and robbery and things like that. And I don't know how it slipped into this. Right, it's something I made tons of videos about on Market Street. So but we have to correct it in the psychology of the population because it's a type of thing. But we don't know how to break through it except to just jump in. Okay, here's the thing. It is actually said all the time. It's certainly when I made a video about this Rush Limbaugh and who that actually is, that this is something that was certainly the guy that says a lot on the radio. It's something that's come out of the mouths of certain types of people who show up on Fox News, but it's also part of the discussion in the population, okay, which is that the discussion of or the challenge to people are challenged to admit it on TV, admit that this is true. Like demented, like these demented conversations on the news. Sometimes, or there's certain kinds of shows, but particularly on radio and things like that, is that like people who are like confronted on to be involved in things that have to, they're talking about this all the time, comes up. People say, isn't it true? They say, like, isn't it true that the statistics, and you know how I feel about statistics, the statistics would indicate that when if people have feelings or whatever that's going on in their heads or whatever about African American people, well, so you could be like a guy like a Rush Limbaugh, like say they do say it all the time. Callers come in, they argue with people. Isn't it true though that the statistics show that the majority of uh, you know robberies, crimes, this and that, of people stealing, breaking into houses, doing things. Isn't it true statistically, sir? They ask, the caller or whatever, on the show or something. Isn't it true, that the majority of people, committing crimes of robbery and this and that, and this and breaking into homes and all these different kinds of types of crimes. I mean, the majority. Isn't it true statistically that it's the sort of like that the majority of such crimes are committed by by African American people? Isn't that true? They say like that comes up. It actually comes up. It does. People that share, like people who, and it's acted as though it's like a sort of like it comes out as though it's the courageous truth to ask the question. Okay, but listen, here's the thing, because no one. I heard people talking about something in which the thing that had happened, the crime or whatever, the images and everything, this particular crime or whatever was committed by a group of African American people. Okay, and that was what happened. But the way they were talking about what had taken place they're saying, look, well, this is the kind of thing that happens, the kind of thing, the desperately poor and economically disadvantaged do. We have a serious problem. People are actually scared sometimes when they see a person who's economically disadvantaged, and they know they could tell it's a person who's economically disadvantaged. They're scared. They think they might get robbed, because it's it's a poor person, and they know that poor people tend, of course, percentage-wise, that's who robs people, so there's naturally people, and that's why people don't feel safe around a lot of types of, in a certain situation, because they know if there's a lot of people there that are economically disadvantaged in a certain place or whatever, that's who's committing crimes, and we know, see, this crime again was committed by, people who were economically disadvantaged. Isn't it right that, people were concerned about that? I mean, they're having this whole conversation about things in which the thing that wasn't mentioned, even though the images would indicate it, and it was that the people who had committed the crime were African American. Okay, basically, it didn't come at no time was the race of the people committing the crime mentioned when they began talking about why people were, this and that and everything. They kept referring to who done this as people who were, desperately economically disadvantaged, and they never mentioned the race of the people, even though it happens to be the background, the story and everything. I mean, they were African American people. So wait a minute. That's the thing, and the way in which people talk about things, and why people demand to know this big. Isn't it true that statistically African American people commit with the record that they should commit the most crimes in our society? Well, no, not really. That's not really true. What it is the majority of crimes and robberies and stuff are committed by people who are economically disadvantaged. So people are scared of people who look like they might be economically disadvantaged. That's why people do all kinds of things to protect themselves from people who are economically disadvantaged. Now, it's true that there's another realm of study that for its own sake looks into the fact that, like, so who actually is the majority of the economically disadvantaged. Turns out, like, the majority of those who are economically disadvantaged are African American. That's like another topic that's studied in the social sciences and things, looking into why why that is, and there's reasons that is. But that takes place in social science. It looks into things like that about who the race or ethnicity or group that's the majority of the economically disadvantaged. But here you had a situation where there was a crime that was committed by a group of people that the picture, right? I mean, the picture was that it was in the background or whatever it was, that no, this is, or they showed the mug shot or something like that or whatever, and they were talking about the whole thing in terms of something that had people who had desperately poor and economically disadvantaged had done, and that they were sort of talking about things like that, but they kept referring to the people as part of the economically disadvantaged. So that's so interesting. That's right. Right. The country doesn't live in political economic reality, and there's always this thing, these voices of sort of, I don't know, some type of belligerent like conservatism that demands that people admit that people that the majority of crimes are committed by African American people. That comes people seen it on shows, on the radio, to call us, tell the truth, Isn't it true that the most crimes are committed by the economic the percentage will show African American people commit the most robberies and crimes? Well, no, this discussion I heard they never mentioned the race of the people, even though they kept calling them the economically disadvantaged. Oh, right. That's what's going on. That's one of the ways in which racism gets built into people's heads. Is They think when they see a person, no, they're concerned about, they're phobic of the economically disadvantaged, and they know and in different ways the people who commit crimes are economically disadvantaged. The race of the people that are most economically disadvantaged is actually irrelevant. But I never heard a discussion that didn't mention the race of the people involved in what they were talking about. I said, that's so weird. Right, of course. I mean, what? Right? Why does it get mentioned? Why does it get mentioned? Oh, right, like that, right? Because no one's living in political economic reality. So the thing they seem to know is that the majority of certain crimes are committed by African American people. Well, African American people are the majority of the people who are economically disadvantaged. Is what's happening. But that's a different story for another time. There's just a type of person who's economically disadvantaged, and there's all different types of them, and they come in all shapes and sizes and things. It happens to be in our society, the majority of the economically disadvantaged are African American. But that's actually irrelevant to the discussion of situations where there's danger because the people in question were economically disadvantaged. I never heard the race not mentioned when there, and I thought, oh, that's so weird. They could correct a big part of the racism in the society by changing the way they're talking about it. That's the best they could do.